all of time and space. Everywhere and anywhere, every star that ever was. Where do you want to start?
Hello and welcome to this festive episode of All of Time and Space. I'm Mark.
And I'm Tom.
And we'd like to wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
So what's this episode about?
So in this episode we're going to be joined by Shona and Caroline from My Adventure in Space and Time. And we're going to be looking at the Big Finish story, The Chimes of Midnight. And we'll be back after this.
Well, Charlie, where are we?
I don't know, Doctor. It's too dark. You were supposed to be getting me to Singapore, you know. 1930, remember?
An Edwardian Christmas. How lovely.
I never much liked plum pudding. Cook always used to make far too much of it, and we were still picking our way through it by New Year.
Oh, I love a bit of plum pudding, though.
Charlie, there'll be a death here soon.
Edith, what are you saying? Who's dead?
I can make you warmer than that fire ever could.
Can't you just leave it, I said?
I only wanted a kiss.
Always been your favourite, ever since you were a little girl.
It certainly has. You'll make me plum pudding forever, won't you? Even when I'm grown up?
There'll be another murder soon, and everyone will forget me. Don't you forget me, Charlie.
Mr. Shaughnessy, you're pointing a gun at us.
Yes, sir.
That's not a very nice way for a well-bred butler to behave, is it?
You are not to go upstairs. It is not our place. We only go upstairs when we are summoned.
Please, don't leave me here on my own. Doctor? Doctor, where are you?
Of course. It's not proof. I mean, I suppose I could be lying when I said I didn't kill her.
Oh, yes. As of course could I.
Stands to reason. Once you've committed murder, a bit of fibbing is hardly going to bother your conscience, is it?
It's mocking us. Whatever this force is, it's mocking us.
And welcome back to this festive episode of All of Time and Space. And we've been joined by the wonderful Shona and Cassie.
Hello.
Hey.
Hello. Hey.
Ian's not
Merry
cheering.
Christmas.
He's being very curmudgeonly.
I'm looking at the name of their podcast. It's very familiar.
Yeah, it's because we sort of nearly partially stole it from existing media, I suppose. So it will look familiar, yeah.
For those who are unaware, they are from My Adventure in Space and Time.
Yeah.
Which is a very fine podcast, which I think is quite unique in its premise, isn't it? Because you have decided to watch all of Doctor Who from the beginning.
Yeah, well, I found myself in the unique position to do so. Well, probably not completely unique, but I feel like most people, even if they're not necessarily Doctor Who fans, have seen some classic Who at some point in their lives, like on TV or whatever. But I somehow completely avoided it until the reboot, when my wonderful friend Caroline, who was already very well versed in Doctor Who, when the reboot came along, we were teenagers, and she was like, we need to watch this wonderful thing, Doctor Who. So
yeah, I mean, I was the other way around. I'd watched loads of it when I was little, and I was beside myself that this was back, and I was like, well, I'm going to have to inflict it on somebody my own age. So
and
firstly,
Shona
you
drew
got
the
your
lucky
best mate
straw.
and go, you need to come and sit and watch this. She's like, okay.
So then I got really obsessed with modern Who, and at some point I guess I maybe started listening to Doctor Who podcasts and enjoying them, but I thought maybe doing a podcast about my journey through classic Who, because I figured, hey, I can watch it from the start and watch it chronologically, because maybe not everyone kind of gets the chance to do that. So
now, can I just broach a rather touchy subject?
Yes.
Your
I'm just
approach
become aware
to the missing episodes is it's quite an unusual one. I don't know if Ian is
Okay.
aware of this. Okay, Ian,
No.
prepare yourself for the shock of a lifetime.
I mean, it was truly a fuck up that I tried to retroactively fix.
Okay, so yeah, just explain the thinking behind your approach to the missing episodes.
My very clever idea. So, picture this: I've got my BritBox subscription, right? I'm ready to go. I'm like, this is it. I'm watching Classic Who.
Yeah.
And then I'm looking at the list, and I suddenly become aware of the missing episodes, and I was like, shit, what do I do now? I don't know what to do about this. And truly, at the time, I was just like, I can't deal with this right now. I have to just keep moving forward. So, and I don't think I actually realized how many of them there were either. Like, I was just plowing on, and I think I just came to the conclusion, I'm just going to skip them. And I'll just come back to them another time. It's no big deal. And then I got to series 3 of William Hartnell, where I still am, and I was like, oh, balls, there's like a million of them. So then I was like, right, well, I don't want to have an absolute backlog of missing episodes to do. So I'll go back now and do the ones I missed.
Let's do them all in one big hit.
Now.
Yeah.
But it
Ian.
did mean I had to do a bunch in a row, yeah.
Shall we go back to the beginning and do it that way?
I'm not sitting through that again.
Oh, it's chronic, isn't it?
Don't. Really don't.
As we record, we're in the
struggle.
fortunate position to be facing our final recon. And then it's all gravy from there on in.
Oh, amazing. You're so lucky. You're so
I don't
lucky.
know that I'd describe the Pertwee era as gravy. There's a
Well,
lot
that'd be
of
gravy, maybe,
brown
but
fluids I could
yeah.
liken it to, but
Yeah.
gravy would not be one of them.
Okay, well, fair enough.
Brown fluids. Yeah, I think,
Yum,
Mark, when you came on My Adventure in Space and Time to do a crusade, was it?
Yeah, that's right.
I think I'd already done just like so many missing episodes up until then. I was pretty finished with them, and you were like, "So it's quite a good story, isn't it?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, I guess it is, but I just can't see anymore." Because I'd already just watched the one about the French Revolution. Oh God.
Well, one day in years to come, you'll be able to look back on all this and laugh.
I'm gonna look back at it like a grumpy veteran, and when people are like, "Oh, it's fun watching the missing episodes," and they all just look the same because technology is so amazing now, and I'll just be like, "You weren't there when I had to watch those stills."
There's 6
of
stills
varying quality.
over and over.
On repeat.
What was the? Have you got to the?
I know what he's going to say now.
No, I'm trying to think of the one that had the least. And I don't think it was.
Mythmakers doesn't have much at all, does it?
Oh, it could have been Mythmakers, or there's one other one, but where there's like about 8 photos.
Together,
yeah, that's the hardest point. You get through
and
that.
the first one, the first one Marco Polo.
Yeah.
And Marco Polo, I felt like was one of the better ones.
Yeah, you're spoiled, aren't you? Because you get a really good one to start off with.
Which I didn't realize because obviously it was the first one. But like, there's snow effect. Like they put effects on it, which is kind of lame. But
you're gilding a lily there massively.
I mean, fair play to them. A lot of these were made in the 90s, and the technology wasn't really there, and they've done the best they can. Bless them.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard enough watching it. Imagine making it.
Yeah.
Like it is like
it's a
it
labor
is
of
really
love,
impressive.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
When we started doing the Dalek Master Plan one, we still haven't got to the end of that. We tried to binge it in one day and went, let's just get this over with. And we'll just record it and it'll be fine. We got to 6 of 12 and went, no.
Yeah.
No.
Split it in half.
Need a break.
And even then, I only released that like last month or something.
Mm-hmm.
It was one of the only ones I got round to doing, and I was And I was like, oh my God, we're broken. These are two broken individuals.
The quality of the content at that point is just garbage because we had just sat in a house all day.
I think we found season 3 quite a challenge because it's a very, very long season.
Very long season.
And a very missing season as well.
Yeah. It's on screen for like 2.5 years or something.
And yeah, it's one of my favourites. So
is it really?
Yeah, work that one out. Yeah. Maybe because we didn't do all the missing ones in one go.
Yeah, it is kind of just bananas, and there's ones I've not got to, but from what I understand, Gunfighters has a song in it. You know what I mean? Like it's like a wacky season. So
it's great. It's you've got a lot of really good stuff to look forward to.
I'm sure I will look back and laugh.
Yeah, eventually. Caroline doesn't look so sure.
No. I feel like, are these over? Please, God.
Okay, well, we're going to give you a break from reconstructions, and we're going to go purely audio for this Christmas episode.
Yeah.
We're going to be covering Rob Shearman's The Chimes of Midnight. Are you both Big Finish listeners? Have you dipped in and out, or are you completely new to Big Finish?
I'm not completely new. I've listened to a couple of Modern Who ones because I do quite like an audio drama.
Mm-hmm.
But up until now, I've been really strict about not jumping ahead. But there's been a couple of times that I feel like I'm just missing out on getting to, do stuff like this. So I've sort of gone, bollocks to that, it's fine. And also Big Finish is, it's... No one's ever really sure if it's canon or no, right?
I'm sure it is.
Wait, Ian, did you say is or isn't?
Isn't. It's not canon.
I loved the idea that you might be hardline, like every bit of Big Finish.
This is gospel, this.
Every line.
Every spin-off of a spin-off.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I didn't really mind. So I was actually quite... I've really wanted to listen to some 8th Doctor for a while, so it was a good opportunity for me. Well, what about you, Caroline? I don't actually know if you've listened to any.
Yeah, I mean, no, I've not done a lot of it, if I'm honest. And it's one of these things, like, I feel like, because I came into it at that point, I thought, it's quite a commitment to, like, do I go back to the start of them in the same way that you did with the TV stuff and, like, try and blitz my way through them, or do I dip in and out, or, like, was that going to be really patchy and I'm going to get confused about what comes where? And, but then, to be fair, I got on our little Secret Santa thing last year. I was sent an audio drama, so I was like, okay, well, now's the time. So I dipped into that one because it was like a personal recommendation from my Secret Santa person. And so but and to be fair, anything that's like a bit of extra Paul McGann content, I feel like is an absolute win because you see so little of him, and I feel like his stuff maybe probably gets away with not being as canon for a while because he was a bit of a non-entity for a while and he got lost in it. And so anything that they can bring back and give him some more stories for me is a win. So
yeah, you won't get any arguments from me and Ian on this one. We're both big Paul McGann fans.
He's such a dreamboat. Yeah,
right? He really is.
You see, this is frustrating me more than anything else about Shona watching the series in order, because the rest of it, I'm like, that's a joy, do it start to finish, whatever. But I'm like, go and watch the film. Please go watch the film, because I have so
we've not got much further to go. I mean,
I don't want to spoil it for her, and like...
I think I'm going to draw the line at the film, though. I think I am going to commit to the journey, which I know sounds insane, but I just think then it'll be so exciting when I'm there.
And suddenly there's a sexy person in Doctor Who after 35 years.
Just mind blown.
Oh, that's
I
cool.
like that bit I was telling someone today at work, because I was telling them I was doing this, about I don't know if I'm getting the name right. You know the parody that Peter Davison put together, I want to say Five-ish.
Oh, the Five-ish Doctors reboot.
Yeah. I love that bit with Paul McGann where he's there, like he's like at a different, like the other end of the table, and they're a bit like, wow, God, he's so cool. Like he's probably reading some amazing new script. He's always working.
I feel like that's not entirely acting either. I think there's genuinely a bit of like, oh God, because I'd be the same.
Yeah,
it's so cool.
And McCoy keeps banging on about being in The Hobbit.
It's good stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, I find Big Finish, the mileage varies a lot. And as you said, Caroline, just, there's so much of it. Where do you jump in?
Yeah.
And particularly the last 5 or 6 years, they really have just ramped up the production. So it's really like a factory. And I don't know, fair play to anyone who can keep up with it. But I find...
I don't even think it's possible to do it all in any kind of order because it's so all over the place. And you've got this companion goes back in time and she's with this doctor for 5 years. And then this goes into a parallel universe with this guy who isn't the doctor, but is. And then you've got all the spin-offs and then you've got all the Unbounds. And it's just...
It all feels a bit like trying to get on a moving roundabout. Do you know that? Where do I even... no, I'll not bother. So.
I think it's the first 50 have been made available on Spotify, which is a good way of being able to introduce people to it. Yeah. And I think those first 50, there is some absolute gold in there. And for me, it's the law of diminishing returns after that, really. Ian's rolling his eyes.
No, I think you're being very generous. I think with Big Finish, I think the first 2 seasons of Paul McGann audios is some of the very best Doctor Who ever. I think pretty much everything else they've done is not my cup of tea. I'm going to try and be polite because I was on another podcast that came out today where I was unspeakably rude about something else. And I had nothing but hate mail all day. But everyone in the first couple of years of McGann, they can all act. The stories are good. There's originality and innovation, and they stopped trying to make the soundtrack of a 4-part TV story and actually try and do something a little bit tailored to the medium. And for a couple of years, they really had something good. It wasn't canon, but it was good.
An entertaining diversion.
I want to start telling people that I think all of Big Finish is canon, just to be against.
Watch them explode.
It's really naughty.
Okay, I think you could carve out a niche for yourself on YouTube because there's some real characters on there who are just happy to spout any kind of nonsense, just as long as they're getting the views.
Yeah, that could be me.
Yeah, maybe. I don't think you got it in you, Shona. I think you're
too
nice a person.
And also, I haven't even got round to watching the second half of the Dalek Master Plan, so I don't know where I think I'm going to pull this YouTube channel from.
No.
Ian, I'm interested to learn. Have you heard? You must have heard this one before.
Yeah. So when it came out, I was working in a bookshop, and the sci-fi buyer was a really big fan, and he'd really try and push just the McGann stuff on customers he knew were Doctor Who fans. And so he'd tape them all for me so that I didn't have to give any money to Big Finish to fund their audio terrorism. And so I would have heard it when it came out, and I listened to all the McGanns until the next life, where the Doctor emerges from a parallel universe back into ours, meets the Daleks, and that was then the perfect kind of place to leave that
stepping off
and step into Rose, because it could have been that was the start of the Time War, that was the end, and then I know they carried on with McGann for another 20 years after that, but no.
I think, without spoiling Shona too much, I feel like his character really comes on just another level again in the audio stuff, because as much as you can try to get that across in a 60-minute TV movie, I think these stories give his character so much more flesh on the bones. I think it's a much better representation of what he can actually bring to the part.
Yeah,
I guess this is what was weird, a bit weird for me listening to it, is I only really thought about it when I was quite a bit into it. I was like, oh yeah, I don't really know this Doctor at all. The only context I've got is like Night of the Doctor. Like, that's it.
So you've seen the very end, yeah,
and that was truly completely it. Just quite strange.
To me, he feels like a sort of spiritual successor to the Fourth Doctor. I think he's got that very kind of, no, right, maybe not quite as totally mad as Tom Baker, but he's got that sort of charm and he's got that childish kind of weirdness about him, and I like that.
And undeniable charisma.
Oh, yeah. I mean, even in audio, just,
yeah.
It's got it in spades. Yeah.
Yeah, he just sounds like suave and kind of showy. He just, But I totally agree with what you're saying about giving him like a bit of bones, because we're so much after I had seen the films. I remember watching it, again, must have been quite young, to be fair. Maybe a few years after it came out. And I remember watching it and going, I'd love to have seen what his doctor did.
Yeah.
It was the thing that I came away with most from the film was going, please give him a series. And of course, by that point, Doctor Who had kind of died a death somewhere in the middle of, sort of mid-90s. It was away, so it was like, oh god, what do we do now? So for them to have gone back and done that, I think obviously there was enough people, it wasn't just me that thought that, like enough people all came away from it and had said the same thing. And the fact that McGann's still got a real place in everybody's heart, I think speaks for how good he is, because people totally consider him part of the strip of what it is.
Well, in the last 10 years since Night of the Doctor, very rarely does a week go by without someone saying, please give him a series.
Yeah.
Feels that way anyway.
Yeah.
Feels like
absolutely.
deep down everyone knows he's probably the best ever, but until we get a full TV series, we can't empirically prove that.
No.
So.
He's kind of in the perfect situation, isn't he? Because he's just forever the Doctor you can dream.
Schrodinger's Doctor.
Schrodinger's Doctor. Hypothetical Doctor.
Yeah. He could be amazing, but you'll never know. What do we make of Charlotte Pollard? She's a very different companion to what you would expect from what was coming out on the TV at roughly the same time. She's... I think it's a nice foil for McGann's Doctor. I think there's another character that comes along a little bit later that probably just clicks that bit better. But I think as pairings go, she's a pretty decent companion.
Yeah, I mean, it's the first I've seen of her or heard of her.
Apart from MasterChef, obviously.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Forgotten about
Is that
Can someone explain this?
She does the voiceover on MasterChef.
Oh, does she?
She's called India
Yeah.
Fisher. Yeah.
Right, yeah.
But yeah, I quite liked her because she did that. It's that lovely thing. I always found the sort of old, the companion thing was like the stand and scream helplessly thing, and they bounce off each other really well. I think like she gets a lot of opportunities to drop in ideas, and he does actually ask for her input quite a lot, and I like that.
Yeah.
We don't get an awful lot of companions. I mean, obviously, I'm coming from a modern Who perspective, obviously, but I haven't had the experience of many companions that aren't from present day, that aren't our look in that way. And obviously, it was all new to me, so it was only until like a little bit on I was like, oh right, so she's from the 1930s, right? Okay, and it took a while for it all to click together. She was a bit posher, I think, than usual.
Very
as
plummy.
well.
Yes.
Yeah. It's like a different dynamic, but then that made sense for this story as well, like that kind of class dynamic.
Well, I think this is also one of the first stories to really give her a chance to kind of flesh out her character a bit as well, because there's the sort of introductory story which gets referenced in this one where she's on this doomed airship that's going to crash and the Doctor saves her. But really after that, there's not that much to really go on. You don't really get an awful much of a sense of what she's all about. Whereas this, it feels like you're getting a much rounder picture of what she's like as a person.
Like she loves plum pudding.
Well, exactly. I mean,
that's why she's a round person.
Did you say, Mark, when you said a minute ago she's plummy, did you?
Was that intentional?
Did you intend?
No, that's I'm not that clever, Shona. Yeah, so we get to have a sort of a Christmas ghost story, but with a very Doctor Who twist. I feel like it's tapping into that sort of M.R. James territory, but giving it that kind of sci-fi element to just take it in a slightly different direction.
Yeah. It was good. It was a weird combination. I think in my head, and obviously because you are having to kind of imagine rather than kind of see it, for me, it really harked back to a couple of more modern ones as well. Like I'm thinking of the one with the planet, the Michael Sheen planet thing.
Oh,
when
yeah.
There was a bit of that, the sort of talking entity, and then, actually, it's not a thing, it's the thing you're in, or the thing you're not, like the planet you're on. There was a little bit of that.
Mm-hmm.
And then the ghost story one that Matt Smith had as well, the sort of haunted house. There was a little bit of that. So in my head, I'd started patching together sort of bits of New Who visuals, but with, or maybe even that, like the Doll's House one. There was a bit of that. It was in the old-fashioned Doll's House with pantry bits. So it was nice.
I always thought there was a lot of ghost light as well. So that's the Seventh Doctor.
Mm-hmm.
That was a similar kind of oppressive old house.
Yeah.
So it was like the ghost light Christmas special remix kind of thing. But yeah, with all these bits that we've seen from the new series as well now. So
I think from a production standpoint, it does such a great job of painting that image in your mind. The sound design's really good, and the introduction as well. I think it's very clever how they sort of step out of the TARDIS and it's completely pitch black, so you're getting the surroundings gradually revealed to you, and it's done in a very organic way.
Yeah,
it didn't have that thing that you can sometimes get with audio drama where you can really see the strings in terms of them explaining what they're doing. Because even things like things where the Doctor's going, "Oh, you're pointing a gun at me now," and you're like, "Okay, great. Well, that tells me." But that was also part of the humor, so it was like it killed two birds with one stone, I guess.
And there wasn't too much of that, as you say. Like there was the odd bit that you kind of needed it, but it wasn't really laid on thick.
No, I didn't find it clunky at all.
I think it was good.
You don't see so much of it in Rob Shearman's TV episode. So he wrote Dalek for Christopher Eccleston.
Yeah.
Did he really?
Yeah.
Right.
But in his prose, he's renowned for having this incredibly dark humour. So he's able to mix the horrific and the funny, and it just sits really well. The highlight for me, I have to say, I know we're jumping around a bit here, is when they're deducing that Frederick has killed himself by getting the car into the house, running himself over with it, and then putting it back outside again before he dies.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We're here for the sarcasm, always.
I think that's Rob Shearman in a nutshell.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, and I mean, a lot of it was pretty dark. It went darker than I presumed it would, because so much of it was so kind of the start. I wonder if that's partly to do with Paul McGann's Doctor and Charlie as well. They're kind of plucky and bright, and then it was like, oh, and look, she's been suffocated by plum pudding. And I remember sort of thinking, this is why this isn't audio, because they couldn't show that on Doctor Who. That's insane.
And to be fair, even I know it was like obviously audio, but the squelching noise as they were like discovering that, it's like, oh, I didn't need that.
When they pulled the sink.
Oh,
what was
the
it, the sink
plunger off
plunger,
her face.
and it was like,
yeah,
it was good. But it's funny, but you're also like, that's horrific.
Yeah.
I don't think they would film that.
And your mind is kind of certainly the first time I listened to it, when they're talking about how the maid in the scullery was so stupid that she didn't realise that it's impossible to drown through having your head in the sink, so that's why she drowned, because she's really stupid.
It was
so
quite
brutal.
It was hard.
Did you find yourself getting slightly confused? Because there is a kind of a fairly standard thing with these types of stories where it's a sort of investigation, or outwardly at first it seems like an investigation into a whodunit in a posh stately home, but then it goes really off the rails when just stuff doesn't add up. Did you find yourself getting a bit discombobulated, or did you just
a little
rolling
bit?
with it?
I want to say sort of halfway through like the second episode of it, towards the end of that, I did kind of go, wait, what? Do I need to rewind this? And like, I am super tired today, so I was like, have I just not processed anything, or is this actually getting quite like, do I need a notebook for this? Am I? And then it all, as they say, when it does start to then make sense and it starts to add up, and you're almost noticing it along with them as it's dawning on the characters, like when it's dawning on the Doctor and Charlie, and you start going, oh, okay, right, I haven't missed a thing.
Yeah, I thought it was kind of, the weirdness was eased in enough that even when there were times that I didn't understand, I was a bit like, I'm not meant to yet. Like,
You felt confident that it would get resolved.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is meant to be confusing right now. Or maybe I was just also, maybe I was just reassuring myself with that.
I thought the cliffhangers were particularly good in this.
Yes.
I thought the one where they take off in the TARDIS and it kind of looks like they've escaped, and then they realise in a sort of horror Fang Rock way that they've taken it with them. And it's another quite unsettling thing, because you always tend to think of the TARDIS as this very safe haven for the Doctor and the companion to run back to, but even that's taken away in this story.
Yeah, it was really cleverly done, and I think even that ending, it was going to irritate me, and I knew like we had another episode to go, so I was like, no, hang on, there's a whole other section coming, but it was that way of just like, this is not a Doctor Who ending of like, well, sod it, I don't know, let's run away.
Yeah. Like
I was like, there's no way we're getting away with that in Doctor Who. Like, that's not a thing.
Wouldn't it be great if that was part of the format? Like,
just every week, like
every single story would have been a one-parter, and at some point you'd have said, "Nah, do you know what? I don't fancy it.
I've had enough of it. I'm out.
One-parter.
Daleks, you say? Bye.
Nope.
Nope. Never mind.
So, Ian, you've been relatively quiet.
Do you think so?
Yeah, you have. Yeah,
So I listened to this. I put it on Spotify last night, and I had the same experience I always have with Big Finish, which is that I fall asleep at some point near the start of part 2. And this is not a reflection on Big Finish. I've needed to have people talking in my ears to be able to fall asleep for the last 20 years.
Yeah.
So I'll have a podcast on, or an audiobook, or a Big Finish. It doesn't matter what.
Yeah.
It will put me to sleep. So I had to listen to part 4 again this morning. And so that's kind of my experience with every single Big Finish story. So maybe I'm not the best person to judge them so viciously. I don't really know what's happened in all of them. I know how they start. I know how they end. There are periods in the middle where I'm like, but I don't think that really makes a difference with this story, because it is so kind of circular and repetitive, and it's got that sapphire and steel kind of magic realism.
That's exactly what it's like. That's just opened up a trapdoor in my head.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm completely lost to that. My dad rewatched that recently, and I found myself going, "Oh, what? No!" I'm like really frustrating.
So, so I think this story works well in that you don't miss anything. If you do sort of, you start thinking about something else, or you fall asleep or whatever, it's just so consistent and focused. And yes, the cliffhangers, I did wake up for pretty much every cliffhanger. The end of part 1, I think, is one of the most genuinely not frightening, maybe, but unsettling, where she just sort of turns and in a very flat voice goes, "Charlie, I'm going to die." And it's like, oh my God, that's horrible.
Yeah.
Right in your ear as well. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh. And all the way through had this been on TV, or if they turned it into a movie, I think it would easily be the most frightening, terrifying psychological horror the show's ever produced.
Yeah.
But it's also the best Christmas special the show's ever produced, so yay.
So they put this on BBC 7, wasn't it? Which is now Radio 4 Extra. This got put out over several nights in December. I think it was 2005. So this was kind of the radio alternative to the Christmas Invasion.
Right.
It's kind of hard to think about those two coexisting in the same time.
Yeah, I kind of presumed...
Yeah, it's like the same scale.
Yeah, I would have presumed this would be earlier. I knew this was... the only thing I knew about this was that it was very well loved. Or I've heard people talk highly of it. and talk about it like, oh well, that's my favorite Christmas special, you know. But I kind of presumed that this was like the Christmas special before Christmas specials. Like,
I can't remember when it was actually released on CD.
It was
but
probably
would
what,
have been a bit earlier.
2003, 2002.
About
And I don't know. So it was somewhere in season 2, wasn't it? Maybe third. I don't know if it could have been released in June. It could have been released in December, but. It very much was the Christmas story for a long time. And when the show came back and you had, you know, Tennant on a rooftop or whatever, I was just there thinking, this is fine, but if there's no plum pudding, I don't know if this is this is all it could be.
And Christmas wouldn't be Christmas without the plum pudding.
Absolutely. I was waiting for someone to go there.
It's killing. It's so horrible. Well, I do get why it's so loved, yeah. And I could definitely listen to this again and again.
Okay.
Because even once you learn the mystery, well, it's like you say, you know, so much of it is so circular. It doesn't really matter, I guess, like that you know the surprises. But also, it's just funny anyway. The dialogue's really quick and funny. I think there was probably loads of little funny lines and stuff that I missed as well, just because it's quite dense, I guess. I guess that's the other thing. There's so much more room for all the drama and the dialogue, and just because of the medium, I guess. Like I think I could go back to it again and again.
I think it's the kind of mark of Rob Shearman as a great writer for this medium is that it is its own complete experience just in audio, whereas some of the Big Finish writers are writing TV stories where you get lots of clunky exposition and I see you are pointing a gun at me, as you said. And let's run up here for 42 seconds of running effects. This is its own thing, and this is probably the strongest Big Finish story for that very reason.
So would this tempt you to try something else from Big Finish, or are you happy just to have this one really top quality one and just not ruin the enjoyment?
I think the Big Finish door for me has been like waiting to be opened. Like I already really enjoy audio dramas, so it stands to reason. But yeah, I think the same as you, Caroline. I just hadn't kind of I guess known where to start, and but now I feel like I'm just gonna find a list that some other person has been like, these are like the best ones, listen to these, and I just go off and listen to them.
I reckon probably Joe Ford's the best person to go to there.
Shout. Or Dwayne and Philip from the Sirens of Audio.
Yeah.
Perfect. Right. But help me do the work for me.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Same for me, I have to say. As I say, I got that sort of I've only ever dipped in on personal recommendations is essentially how I've got via that one that I was given through the Secret Santa and then through this one. So it's one of these things where now you go, okay, I can jump in and follow a story without having to have a backstory, which maybe actually you have to have more for the TV series, I think. To jump in middle of TV series, you probably need that more, where with these, they seem to be, certainly the ones I've had, they seem to be quite standalone.
Yeah, I think the next series of McGann, they start to go with arcs, but because I think they're very much trying to make it a more equivalent to what's being shown on the TV. But for a lot of the stuff that I've listened to, I could quite happily hear that in isolation without having to think, oh God, I've got to buy, 4 other stories so I know what the hell's going on. I don't think it's quite that bad.
I've always thought as well, like I am such a fidget, even sitting here, like I've got to play with pens, or I've got, like I sit and fidget all the time. So to not have something to watch, I thought I might lose my attention and I would start drifting off and doing stuff and being like, where it didn't. It absolutely, like the ones I've gone through so far have absolutely held my attention. And you go, okay, there is potential for me to actually really enjoy these a lot more than I thought. So, yeah.
I find they're good for the commute to work if you're walking. Or maybe even driving. It's just something you can have on in the background and it kind of seeps into my brain.
Yeah, they were the soundtrack to me unpacking a suitcase today. So
Oh, yay.
thanks, guys.
I'm so glad we could help. Is there anything else that you wanted to really say about the story before we wrap it up?
I thought it was a sinister but fun commentary on Edwardian class struggle.
Oh, I like that. That's a great soundbite.
Yeah.
I'm gonna.
I liked it when I wrote it down, so I thought I'd
Yeah,
share.
that's great.
So Ian, if you want to say
exactly the same.
if you want to say that phrase exactly, I'll just cut out Shona saying it, and I'll make it
Could
sound
you?
like you came
Could
out.
you?
With that.
There's a
Yeah,
bag
it's
of
really
chips
good.
in it for
There we go.
Absolutely, yeah.
And right
There
there
the
is your trailer.
patriarchy in action.
Right, mute Shona, mute her.
Yeah.
Why do you think they locked me out at the start of this?
Well.
It's a conspiracy.
Outnumbered. Outnumbered.
Mhm.
Yeah, no, I definitely enjoyed the darkness of it. Like, I quite like it when you can get past, obviously Doctor Who's a family program, and I think people, either love that or hate that. They go, it's a bit kiddie-ish, or it's not. But I like when you can have a little bit of both, and that was definitely one of the sort of darker stories. I quite enjoyed that. It brings it back
Cassie,
to something.
on
Yeah.
that, the ending was grim as fuck.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I kind of
It
forgot
was when
that
she
Edith
fully
was
said,
like,
slit my wrists, and I went,
Yeah.
whoa!
Yeah.
and she was
Doing this, are we?
fully said slit her wrists, and also was like obsessed with her.
Yeah.
Was really obsessed with her, and Charlie was like, "Oh, I think
had
I
no
smiled at
idea,
you."
yeah.
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 And then she says it was a
Yeah.
very slow death. And like, oh, Jesus.
Yeah.
God.
Yeah.
And then sort of really tried to talk her into it, like really tried to cajole somebody into suicide, when she's going, it'll just be over really quick, just juice. And I'm like, oh my gosh. Yeah, like proper darts. That definitely was a bit of a like, whoa, it's a Christmas special, guys. Like, cheer up a bit. But weirdly, they didn't play on the Christmassy tropes either. There
No.
wasn't too much.
No, I like that.
It made sense that it was happening on Christmas Eve, and then it gave it that kind of Dickensian horror story, Christmassy misery thing going on that happens, but without it being sort of over the top. Right, well, it's a Christmas special, so we really better crowbar some Santas in here or something. There was none of that. There was no Christmassy filler. It was all good.
Yeah, I think it really kind of the horror and the suicide-y stuff kind of speaks to that general wilderness era thing in Doctor Who. I mean, I'm a big fan of the books, like the New Adventures and the Eighth Doctor novels, and it was the same thing. We're not making a family program for BBC One primetime audiences. We're catering now to like 3,000 desperate people who just can't let it go.
Just for Shona and Caroline's benefit, these were books that came out before you were born.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yes.
okay.
Yeah.
Sorry.
The new adventures.
New in speech marks, the 30-year-old adventures.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was when we don't have to cater to kids anymore, and none of the writers are in that kind of, they're all, grown up. The people buying it now, they're all 30s and 40s and whatever. So you would get really adult themes, and sometimes there'd be like really sophisticated horror or magical realism or comedy. Sometimes it would be really crass and sort of a 25-year-old boy writing about guns and companions in skimpy latex, whatever. There were so many different approaches to making it adult because you didn't have to make it family friendly anymore. And then again, when the show came back and it skewed back down to being 8+ friendly or whatever, a lot of that fell away, and it kind of, I think it was like you said with the comparison stories you mentioned at the start. I think the Stephen Moffat era in particular kind of has that there if you want to see it, has that darkness.
Yeah.
But it's kind of at one remove because they don't want to terrify the children with that kind of stuff. But in this period, it could be as in your face as that, and it was really jarring because it was brilliant. But it was still this is Doctor Who. They shouldn't. You don't slit wrists in Doctor Who. They have space guns.
Yeah.
Don't slit wrists.
No, that's such a good sentence as well. I'm having that and all. But yeah, hence I kind of the particulars of the Doctor's wife, isn't it, with House?
Yes.
Yeah.
It really, really reminded me of that. And I thought, again, has this been lifted? And then you do that which came first thing, and then, like, you know, because it was like the sort of talking entity, and then kind of having these sort of slave things that they've it was all kind of similar, but not voiced by Michael Sheen, essentially. But not in a way that I'm going, oh God, heard it, do you know, because it was a totally different outcome, and then the way the story played out and the loops and stuff did play out differently. So it wasn't a sort of rehash of anything. That's not what I'm getting at either. But, you know, getting into that's about as dark as episodes of Doctor Who went, I think, you know, those kind of ones. But even going back to stuff like Cybermen and that, you know, the more you overthink it, kids don't really think about it. They're like robots. And actually, when you do some of those ones, the conversion stuff, you go, oh, actually, some of that, if you really think about it, is. But as you say, it's only there if you're in that kind of mindset to find it. Where kids, it probably skims them over a bit.
If you're 7, that's just brilliant. They chuck you up and put you in a robot. That's fantastic. As an adult with, you know, or near some kids, you're just thinking, oh no, oh don't watch this, Junior. Oh no, oh my God. Oh. But you know, it's all things to all people.
Yeah.
And that's why we love it.
A lovely ending.
Yeah, well, I think this is a good point in the show to wrap it up and give it a score. We're going to mark it out of 10. I shall come to Shona first. Shona, what would you like to give this one out of 10?
Okay. I'm going to score it pretty high. I think I only don't want to say 10 just because you shouldn't or something.
Because Christmas, you can do whatever you like.
Yeah, I might say 9 because I think there was one point in it where maybe I was just tired, but I think maybe 3/4 of the way through, I was a little bit like, okay, I get what the mystery is, and I want them to start solving it now. Like, so I guess maybe for a little bit I was like, oh, okay, it's a bit, this is getting a little drawn out now. But that was truly the only kind of moment that I wasn't on board. So I'm going to give it a solid 9.
That's decent. Caroline, what would you like to give this?
I mean, I'm kind of on a similar note of finding that where you go, like, number that came into my head straight away when you said that, I was like, I'm going to go around about 8, I reckon. And then you go, well, actually, I'm struggling to find where I would take a lot of points off, though, you know? As you say, there maybe some of it, just some of the sentences and the repetition, you get to a point of, as you say, that anxious to like one kick this but and then very briefly between two of the characters, I did find their accents started mixing up, but again, could just be the tiredness. But I'd really struggled to take many points off of it, so I would go for an 8 or a 9 as well.
Okay,
it's rating high for me.
That's good. Ian?
Well, having heard enough Big Finish to know what I'm talking about, this is very much the high point of their output. As far as Paul McGann's Doctor is concerned, in the TV movie, in all the novels, in all the audios, this is one of his strongest stories. And I think in any format for any audience, this is just as close as Doctor Who probably gets to being an adult literary work. So I'm going to give it a 10.
Excellent.
Oh, yes.
Excellent.
Good for you. Yeah.
Good on you.
Don't be afraid of that 10.
I mean, everything you guys have said is coming through for me as well. I love Paul McGann. I think he's fantastic, and any opportunity I get to enjoy his Doctor again is always good. I really like Charlie Pollard as a companion. I think she's great. The story was superb, just from start to finish. It was equal parts funny, scary, spooky, and as Ian knocked it on the head when he said it was very kind of Sapphire and Steel, and that was that's a really good kind of for old farts like me and Ian, that's a really good kind of comparison point.
Can we, just to be clear, I'm a significant number of years younger than you.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
I say significant. I am a number of years younger than you. Let's not dwell too much into the minutiae of the numbers. Maybe 2, maybe 3. I don't know.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to give it a 10.
Yay! God bless us, everyone.
Yeah. Perhaps it might just be that Shona and I's ignorance is that we were hoping that there's a lot more of this kind of thing out there. Perhaps we may come back to.
Well, we'll leave you to make your own minds up.
Really, we didn't know what we had. We didn't know what we had.
Well, I think, this one, The Stones of Venice,
that's a good one.
Invaders from Mars, there's, thematically they vary, but they're really seriously in the first 2 series of Paul McGann.
Yeah.
There's so much quality storytelling. It's really strong. It's one of the strongest eras of the show, and it kind of pains me to say that, but it was brilliant for that brief period.
There's a more recent series they did with him called Stranded, which I think that worked really well as well.
It's really cool as well that he's just always... I know a lot of past Doctors are doing Big Finish regularly, but I guess because he really Paul McGann kind of really only exists in that medium, it seems like more of a treat that he's always churning it out.
He's so
that his Doctors
and
always...
he so loves being the Doctor. I think the fact that he's had another chance to do it, as much as it's lovely for us, I think he's also loving being back in that fold, isn't he?
I think he has aged like a fine wine.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, you would.
Yeah.
You would.
Well, I think that's a very good time to call a halt to proceedings. But before we say goodbye to Shona and Caroline, we're going to have some recommendations.
Oh, lovely.
So mine is a very late to the party recommendation.
That's what most of mine are generally.
It's not the Daleks master plan, is it?
Oh, that's mine.
Oh,
I gotta love a bit of
I'm
Mavic
so
Chen.
late to that party. I'm so late to that party that I went to half of that party and then had to pop out and just haven't
Never went
returned.
Made it back.
God. So I just, how long ago? Maybe a few months ago, started watching for the first time Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Oh, fantastic.
I had never seen it. I think because I know, I guess because I'm somewhat aware of popular culture, I know things about it. But so I do have a few spoilers and stuff, but I'd never properly watched it. And it's such a treat. So I want to throw this into the world for anyone that's in a similar position and is like, I never did watch Buffy the Vampire Slayer, but people seem to really like it. Just do it. It's so well written. I watch it with my dinner almost every night, and I'm always looking forward to watching it. I'm like, great, I get to watch Buffy again.
That's a really
so
great
I'm
shout.
And there's so much of it.
Yes.
I know. I'm on season 5 at the moment.
Wow, you've been powering through.
I'm in the Dawn debacle. I'm all I'm in there. And sure, the first couple of seasons are not as finely tuned, but I think they're still very charming. So I'm a solid fan now, and I want to share this joy with as many people as possible.
That is great. If you are enjoying Buffy, there is a really good podcast out there by our good friends Martin Havel and Joe Ford. It's called Bite Me.
Oh, great!
They're watching it in order, so you'll be able to hear their thoughts on it, and it's really entertaining.
Oh, that's a great rec for a new mark. Though when you said if you like Buffy, I really thought you were going to be like, you could watch Angel, and I was like, I don't know.
No,
I don't really know if I want more Angel.
No.
How do people feel about Angel? Because I sat and rewatched all that as well.
Angel's essential, and it gets really good after, I think, from season 2 of Angel onwards.
Now I'm gonna
no, it's brilliant, and it it links
he's really good. He's a very good actor. He's not just there as the eye candy. I think he's actually got some acting chops.
I do really miss Cordelia, because I thought Cordelia was smashing.
Yeah, watch Angel. So
Yeah. Okay. So I've gone from an Angel skeptic to suddenly being on board.
You have to do it. If you enjoy Buffy, why deny yourself the joy of Angel?
Yeah. Don't I want myself to be happy?
Exactly.
Okay.
Caroline, what would you like to recommend?
Oh gosh, I have no idea. I'm one of these people that is unbelievably behind with telly, and I'm really bad for that thing where people go, you should watch this, and I'm like, yeah, I will, and then never get around to it. I'm such a rewatcher of the same stuff. I'm so bad for it, so I really struggle with anything new, and then when I do find something, everyone's like, yeah, we watched this 10 years ago. But
this is me, right, with Buffy.
Yeah, so I'm genuinely panicked with this one. I don't know. I mean, I've what am I doing? I'm only just now beginning to settle into my Christmas phase.
Okay.
Because I've been really busy. So I'm like, just go and get the old stuff out. Go and watch old Christmassy films. Like, even all the new stuff that comes out. I'm like, no. So I'm thinking, like, go and get Muppet Christmas Carol out.
Yes, absolutely.
And then Blackadder's Christmas Carol.
Yes,
For
featuring
me,
Nicola
tops it. I'm a
Bryant.
sitcom person more than a film person. So, yeah, for me, it's going to be, if we're doing a Christmas special, some shouts on some Christmas specials. Go and enjoy some Christmas specials.
That is a solid recommendation. Ian, what have you got for us?
I really struggled because I've had a very busy couple of months, and I don't think I've read, watched, or listened to anything particularly new.
Same,
So
right.
I thought I'll do my thing of the year, the thing that's brought me the most joy in the whole of 2023. And then I thought about that, and I thought, well, it's all stuff from years ago that I've come very late to that particular party of, or got around to reading 10 years after it was published or whatever. But I think probably the original cultural item that's brought me the most joy this year would be Lana Del Rey's album "There's a Tunnel Under Ocean Boulevard," because she's still got it.
Wonderful.
Nice.
I've never really done Lana Del Rey, but I like a lot of like Lana Del Rey adjacent things. Do you know what I mean?
If you like the kind of David Lynch vibe, the kind of 50s faded, bruised glamour, it's wonderful. And the thing about her is she gets better without ever really changing her sound. So every record is just like the last one, but even more refined and even more pointed and even more lusciously produced and orchestrated. So it's just, I run out of words.
Oh.
I've got two recommendations. Coming from very opposite ends of the spectrum as well. The first one is it's a segment on a podcast. It's called Song Poker.
Yay!
And it's on a podcast called The Electric Sodcast. I don't know who came up with that title. And one of the people involved in that podcast is in the chat with us as we speak. Mr. Ian
Well,
Martin.
it's not me.
Yes.
It's not me. It's not Caroline.
So the Electric Sodcast is a comedy podcast. Very, very funny. But they've added an extra string to their bow because they're having chats about music, and I'm a music obsessive, so hearing people talk about stuff and introducing me to things I might not have heard before, or just talking about stuff that I really love, is just music to my ears, literally. So I'm enjoying that. And the other thing, Shona, you said about being late to the party. How late is something that was written in 1898?
Oh.
That's quite late, isn't it? Yeah. To be fair, I have read it a long, long time ago, probably getting on for about 20 years ago. It's a novel called The Turn of the Screw by Henry James, which at this time of year people like to indulge in ghost stories, as we've been listening to.
And the same sort of era as well.
Very much so, yes. It's a very harrowing ghost story. I've been listening to the audio version. I'm a member of Audible, and they have a fantastic version, which is the sort of intro is read by Richard Armitage, and the actual story is read by Emma Thompson.
Oh.
And it is fantastic. She is, as you would expect, just superb. And the story is every bit as chilling as the first time I read it. It's very, very good. So if you're interested in checking out a spooky ghost story for Christmas, I would recommend The Turn of the Screw.
Good Christmas Rex.
Yeah, anything Emma Thompson touches is gold.
Yeah, she's brilliant. But before you guys go, we should give you a chance to give your podcast a plug.
Yes, I know from our chat it sounds inactive. Oh, but we're actually and in a way it is, but but I think we had aspirations of releasing both the second part of Dalek Master Plan, and we've been trying to do a Christmas special the last since we started the podcast, so we were just starting from, maybe we should have started from Chimes of Midnight if we were purists, but unfortunately we were unsophisticated.
The ordering again, okay?
Yeah, we were unsophisticated swines, and we started with the Christmas Invasion. So last year we did the Runaway Bride, and this year, hopefully, if we get our shit together, which I'm really confident we will, we'll do Voyage of the Damned.
Oh, fantastic.
Which I don't remember being crazy about, but it's been a while.
It's Kylie. I mean, what's not to like?
I do love Kylie.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I already liked her a bit, and then I don't know, for some reason the last couple of years I'm like really pro Kylie now. Like, I think maybe I saw her set at Glastonbury, not there, I mean I watched it on a telly, but it was just insane and great. So, you know, it's got that going for it. So we will hopefully get that out. The dream is to get that out before Christmas.
Yay.
And if we achieve that, we'll have won. Christmas will be saved.
You will have won Christmas.
Yes, yeah, because it's there to be won. And that's the plan. And then I guess we'll look towards the new year for Dalek Master Plan. And we'll continue to slog our way through Series 3. And I hope once we're at the other side of that, we'll hopefully be a bit more on it.
Yeah, well, you know what real life gets in the way, doesn't it? And you don't always get a chance to record that.
Yeah, we've both had kind
regularly.
of weirdly busy summers, and then it just kind of like we never got a hot minute. And then to be fair, I've just tried to kind of keep us alive on the socials, just to be like,
oh, you do a wonderful job.
You are doing a great
sort of
job.
social media person, and every now and then I'm like, I should really just let people know we're still alive. So I've been, and then obviously we've had some more content recently because of all the lovely new stuff for the 60th. So that's made it a little bit easier to get some chat going with people again. And you know, there's some lovely people on Twitter as well as some absolute monstrosities. So we're quite lucky actually. I feel like our little circle of people that engage with us on Twitter are generally bloody lovely, but it's become a bit of a cesspit recently. So
you know it's there though, lurking.
But you know, I quite like making little reels and stuff just to keep us alive. But I'm rapidly running out of footage that I haven't used yet. So,
It's a really great podcast. It's called My Adventure in Space and Time. Shona and Kazi are the two main kind of people on it, but you do have guests appearing every now and again.
Yep. We've got some of our podcast friends. You can look to The Crusade if you want to hear Mark as well.
Oh no. You've had Harry and Luke on, haven't you?
Oh. Yes. I had them on The Chase.
Yeah.
which I didn't know at the time, which was a perfect choice because The Chase is just so chaotic and bananas.
We voted that our favourite story of the season.
Did you?
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's a good choice. Yeah, like it's so wild. Is The Chase series 2?
Yes.
Yeah. It's just so mental. Like there's nothing that like it that exists anywhere.
That's true.
Not in Doctor Who. Not in the world. Is there anything like
Nothing's matching
The
up
Chase?
with it.
It's just so insane. And they did Galaxy 4 as well. But I mean, I think all old Doctor Who's sort of insane in its own way. Like at least one thing happens in an episode where I'm like, what? Like, you know.
And it could be a costume, or it could be a costume, or it could be a costume.
Or it could be an over-actor in a costume. They're my favourite.
Yeah.
It's so wild.
Fantastic. Well, brilliant. Well, I look forward to hearing some more from you guys. Thank you both so much for coming on. It's been an absolute blast having you on the show.
Thank you for having us for a Christmas special. I feel a bit honoured.
Well, we only take the
Christmas
best.
specials, top-notch stuff.
We'll send you a £5 book token as a special thank you.
Yay!
Won't you, Mark?
Yeah, only redeemable in the United States of America.
Oh.
I don't even know if they have book tokens over here. I've
think
not found out yet.
Barnes and
I've only
Noble
been here a
and
couple of years. I don't know.
Yeah, it's not like you're a book
New
person
show.
or anything. No.
Wait a minute, yeah.
Before we go, I'd just like to wish everyone a very Merry Christmas and a happy and healthy New Year.
And some plum pudding.
And some plum pudding.
Wouldn't be Christmas without plum pudding.
If you'd like to get in touch, you can email us at mailbagofrassilon@gmail.com. We're also on Twitter @TimeEndSpacePod, and you can also find us on Facebook. If you want to leave some audio feedback, there is a link in the show notes. You can use your phone or your computer and leave up to 60 seconds of feedback. Or if you're listening via the Anchor website, you can click on the message button and leave your audio. We'd love to hear from you. And thank you to Momo Tempo for providing our theme music.